Welcome back, and we're going to talk a little bit of a serious topic here, and we're so glad she has joined us once again. Cynthia Mulligan, of course, a reporter from CityNews, who just came back from Paris covering the terror attacks, and I'm glad you're here back home safe and sound.
I'm sure your girls are too.
What a lot of people don't realize is that, and we didn't want to reveal this last week for your safety's sake, was that you were actually on vacation in Italy when all this happened.
I was.
And as a news reporter, this is what you do. You go to where the news is. You cut your vacation short, took a train into Paris.
I did. Well, I was in Florence, so I took a train from Florence to Rome and then flew from Rome to Paris.
This was your choosing.
Saturday. This was my choosing. Actually, I had been at the Uffizi Gallery all afternoon in Florence, enjoying the most beautiful art in the world, and went for dinner, came back to my hotel, and I saw what was unfolding, and I instantly emailed the newsroom and said, I want to go. Let me go.
And I don't want to make the story about you right now, but I think it's worth pointing out that you didn't have a crew with you.
No.
You were by yourself using your
cell
phone only.
Me and my phone.
And
yeah.
I just asked you, I said, you were the first female videographer. I remember when you first started at City.
I was a camera person here.
Yeah.
And back then, you had that big, heavy camera. Now that's all you needed to tell the incredible tales.
What I was hoping to do was just have a personal, deep, intimate conversation with Parisians and just walk through the streets and just talk to people. That was my goal in going there, to try and understand what was happening and how people were reacting to this unspeakable horror.
I think it touched our hearts so much. This one particular, it was near the Bataclan concert hall, which is where so many horrible things had happened, and they had just reopened the area to the public. Pick up the story from there.
So we were able to see for the very first time the front of the Bataclan, where 89 people were killed, and there were flowers and memorials and candles and people crying, and I kept looking over, and there was this one young woman with a violin in her hand. So I was keeping an eye on her, and all of a sudden she walked very slowly across the street and she started to play, and it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard amidst all that sorrow.
Generations of families, people brought their babies out.
Babies, yes.
Toddlers.
So many people. In fact, her young son was with her. And there was something about that moment where, you know, music brings out your emotions, and it breaks down barriers. And all of a sudden, I think the true horror of what had happened inside of that building, that music, exposed it amidst the beauty. It was a remarkable moment, and I will never forget that moment.
So quiet.
So quiet.
Like absolutely dead quiet. Now, in complete contrast to this, I want to talk about the Stampede.
The Stampede, yes. So
I was terrified for you.
Well, I have to say I was a little scared, and I didn't realize I was scared until after it was over and my hands were shaking, and I went, oh, this is an interesting thing. So what happened was I was walking to Notre Dame. Here it is.
I honestly don't know what it is.
I had stopped at Place de la République. So imagine Nathan Phillips Square filled with mourners, and all of a sudden somebody set off fireworks. And, you know, up until then, this is Sunday night, all day long I had been talking to people about how defiant they were, and they will not bring us down, and we are going to overcome this. We're Parisians. And in this moment, you realize the absolute fear that was underneath all of those emotions, and people panicked in a split second. It went from, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people at a silent vigil and memorial to sheer terror.
So fragile.
I just, Barb, could we re-rack that? I want to be able to see it and hear it without us talking over it for a moment. So let me know when you're ready, Barb, and we'll just have a listen to that. I mean, honestly, this was
chilling,
incredible, and very quick on your part as well. So have a look and listen.
I don't know what's going on. People are running. They've heard something. I honestly don't know what it is.
As the crowd dissipates, you see it's just Cynthia.
Some sort of noise. Police sirens. I'm hiding behind a truck. You can see I'm at the... Oh, police are telling us to run.
can't
that
see
point,
it in
you're
the
the only
video.
one that remains with one crouching officer, it seems.
Well, there were about a dozen officers, and there he is there, but to the left, there were several more also crouched down, and they looked more scared than I did, to be honest. Like, that was what was almost the most disturbing,
More
is how
unsettling.
concerned the police were in that moment. And then what you don't see is you know, you had hundreds of people running. Well, they didn't stop running. So there were all these streets leading into the square, and they stampeded through the streets for several blocks, because I walked around after. All the tables outside the bistros were knocked over, shattered glass everywhere. And I walked into one pub. They had locked the doors, but they unlocked them because I had been there earlier, because I constantly had to recharge this. And they told me that they had about 40 patrons hiding behind the bar. And people were still crying when I was there 15 minutes later. A baby almost got caught up in the stampede outside.
One thing I remember in all the people you talked to was there was one gentleman who, funny enough, was a comic.
Yes, a young man. He's a comedian. So the bistros were empty after. And Paris is known for its bistros. People love to sit outside in the rain and the cold. They have heaters out there. It's a way of life in Paris. And they were virtually empty after Friday night. But there was sort of a growing movement amongst Parisians. We're going to take over our bistros again. This is our way of life. We will endure. And I talked to one young man outside a bistro who is a comedian, and he was so thoughtful and no anger. He refuses to be angry, and that was a prevailing theme. People didn't want to be angry. Listen to what he had to say. He was really great to talk to.
It's important because, you know, as a symbol, of course, but it's also important because, as I said, that's the way we live and that's the way we like to live. So why change, especially in times like these, when some people ask us, they do not ask us, they command us to change and to obey other rules we don't agree on. So yeah, you could say it's kind of a message to stay true to who we are and to keep on living like this. Yeah.
Cynthia, you're so brave. Thank you for bringing us these stories. I can't even wrap my brain around what it must feel like to have been there. I'm sure you're still dealing with those emotions, very raw emotions yourself.
They're starting to hit me a little bit more now. And the one image that I will never forget is the flowers that were placed in bullet holes in the shattered windows of the restaurants. And that image is going to haunt me for a long time.
Thank you so much for bringing us this story.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
It's nice to be home.
All right. We are going to take a break on Breakfast Television. We'll be back right after this.